Hello everyone, this is Incognito Gaming. As you've seen in the title of this video, I'll be naming some things that I would like to see personally in the Undisputed Career Mode when it's released, or at least added to the game sometime during its life cycle. As a disclaimer, if I say an idea that you have mentioned before, either in the Discord or in a comment, I promise I am not trying to steal your idea. If there's an idea that I liked, I'll make sure to credit the source. Instead of using this as a moment to create conflict, why not just recognize it as someone agreeing with your idea? And that alone gets it a step closer to being put in the game, because Steel City says they're always listening to their consumers. But without further ado, let's get into some of these ideas. One of the most important things of a career mode, in my opinion, is the customization. Undisputed has shown a preview of what a box creator would look like back in a 2021 video they did. And watching that then, I was very happy with what they were planning on giving us. But if you've been following this game for a while, you know that things change, and it's not always for the better. One thing I appreciated about that video is the number of ways they allowed you to customize. You had the ability to edit various features of the face. They mentioned being able to modify the hairstyles that were given. They showed different body types and sizes, as well as the ability to adjust the size of specific muscle groups. And of course, they showed off a limited number of different boots and shorts that you can change, as well as the different areas of those pieces of clothing that you can edit. This all has to stay, Steel City. That is a must. In fact, it needs to be more in depth if possible. A good customization can cover a multitude of issues for the consumer because they will be so immersed in the character that they created that they'll be more willing to ignore the problems with the features that are in the career mode at that current time. Plus, this will give you more time to add more features to the career mode moving forward without the community grumbling about everything that's been done. With all that being said, before each bout, there should be an option to customize your gear for every fight. Of course, there should be an option to just stick with a few created presets for those that don't really care about that type of thing. But there are a lot of players that would love to put together different styles and color schemes before every fight for their fighter. That is an option that has been put in other career modes, but it's been indirect. What I'm saying is, what about before fight day or even during the contract signing phase, have a pop-up or a side option that players can choose directly on that same screen that allows them to edit their gear. There will be players that probably spend 30 minutes to an hour alone just designing their fight gear for each fight. And along with your personal boxer, allow NPCs to have different fight gear too. If you rematch a guy or even have a trilogy, it will make sense for them to change their gear as well. All of this will help to create an immersive atmosphere for the player. And as a sidebar, please make sure the NPCs fight each other. It doesn't make sense for us to be the only guys fighting in the entire division. In my opinion, training in combat sports games has been historically boring. I don't have a complete solution for this, to be honest, but I have some ideas for making this worth playing instead of just being a chore before getting to the fight. Real Thumpman on Discord suggested choosing a variety of training activities to focus on different areas of boxing skill, and I think that's a great idea. Instead of making a bunch of training minigames, maybe just have us set a schedule like Victorious Boxers does so we can target specific areas to improve in, and instead of just playing each activity, maybe just manage our fatigue and recovery. This can open the door for us to have our fighter train even outside of fight camp. But if you do decide to add training minigames, the different types of training should be quick and just difficult enough so it falls short of being annoying. Also, the coach you choose should determine how well certain attributes increase during your training as well. For example, if you have a defensive-minded coach, your improvement on the offensive side should be slower than on the defense. Or if you have a coach that's great with speed and combination punching, power should take longer to develop. The coach himself should also be able to improve, and you can end up having to make the decision of sticking with your first coach and waiting for his improvement, or hiring a well-established coach for a lot more money but growing faster. But even though I'm not really on the side of a bunch of training minigames, I do believe that sparring should be a part of career mode, and choosing a sparring partner and inviting boxers to spar should have the chance of having an impact on your relationship with that fighter, either positively or negatively. The opportunity to be invited to spar with champions from your and other weight classes should help build your own skill with the game and improve your attributes faster. If someone in your gym is a champ, there should also be a bonus for being able to spar with them. In the same vein as training, I feel like victorious boxers had a good base for having to manage weight for a fighter, but I think their system was very complicated and a little bit too limiting into how you could train. Maybe I just never figured out the right system for it, but I do believe a weight and fatigue management system is good for this game. Even going as far as making weight and having to cut weight the week of the fight could put somebody in the mind of their fighter. I also would like to have a way that we can watch tape on a fighter that we're about to go up against. Maybe allowing us to see their past opponents, choose a random fight, and let the AI have a fight with a fixed outcome based on what we chose. That way we can see the fighter's tendencies and understand what we're getting into. Oh, and I almost forgot in the training aspect, as far as body types go, if possible, make the fighters' bodies change depending on what they do in their career. If you create a Mike Tyson looking fighter and decide not to train harder, you should have the chance of ending up coming out of that career looking like Tyson Fury. And vice versa. If you create a fat or a skinny fighter, they should be able to put on muscle or get more lean depending on how hard and on what they train. It will make the little things in the career mean something. For some reason, I remember that they were saying that there's a possibility of an amateur career being included in the career mode. I feel that's a great idea, and I'm hoping that also means that your career can start earlier than age 18 to give each fighter more time to grow. But this stage of your career has to mean something, whether it's building popularity, building attributes, or even building your team. The things done at amateurs have to impact your pro career, otherwise no one will waste their time there. Of course, there should be the option to skip this stage entirely and go straight to the pros, but there should be pros and cons to both options. Fighters that took their time and went to the amateur should have a leg up when it comes to things like popularity, sponsorships, the fight cards they get on, and the promoters that want to sign them. And they should be able to start their pro career with more developed attributes than someone that just jumped straight to the pros. I assume that you will do this already, but everything that you have added to your fighter, attribute-wise and popularity-wise, should carry over in some capacity from the amateurs to the pros. Those that jump directly to the pros could have the advantage of having a longer career since they have fewer boxing miles on them. Their climb to stardom should take longer since they would be basically unknown until they climb the ranks. But that can also be a benefit for them because they can stack their attributes as well as their record while fighting lower level opponents during their early stages of their career as they try to work their way to stardom. And as far as making the amateurs matter and making things more realistic in career, we need to have fighters get to the pros along with us. Whether it would be fighters that we fought in the amateurs or just fighters in different weight classes that have continued to win and progress, running into these guys again would make the amateur circuit feel meaningful. Rivalries can carry over, or maybe even friendships can form. If someone beats you in the amateurs, it can be a part of the story leading into the pro fight to garner attention and make that fight bigger. Of course, it shouldn't be everybody you face, but seeing a few names that you recognize years later in your career increases the immersion of the universe you're creating. Transitioning into the venues that we will fight in early on in our career, please don't do the default of having everyone that starts fighting in someone's restaurant or somebody's backyard. In real life, there are fighters that have made their debut on ESPN or other major networks. This should be an option for our fighter depending on how they started their career. This is another area where those that took the amateur circuit can have an advantage, possibly even making their debut on a championship fight card depending on how popular they became during their amateur career. Doing this will make all these little moments and little amateur fights mean something. Fight negotiations are a big part of a boxer's career in real life. In Steel City's first gameplay, they showed a screenshot that kind of previewed what the negotiation screen could look like. I personally am hoping that this can stay very close to this and be expounded on. I like the ability to negotiate the purse split, the winner's cut, the fight location, and the weight class, as well as the ability to add a rematch clause. And I really like how at the bottom of the screen it shows the negotiation success percentage. I would also like to see there be an option to discuss ring size, A side, B side, and even a rehydration clause that can affect one or both fighters' attributes going into the fight. To make things like purse splits matter, the money we earn in-game has to mean something. One thing I hated in earlier boxing game career modes was the uselessness of the money that you earned. After the first few fights, there was really no need to worry about the money that you made, and some games even made gloves, shoes, and trucks unreasonably expensive so you could have reason to spend the money that you earned during the fights, while others just put everything on your training camp. The training camp route makes sense more than apparel, but it still makes the money you make during a fight mean close to nothing. My solution for this is to have a consistent amount of expenses that a fighter would have to pay during their career. The people in their corner, like their trainer, cutman, and promoters, should all have a price tag attached to them. Even allowing the fighter to purchase homes that have a constant yearly cost but have certain accommodations that can allow them to increase or maintain their attributes can make fighting for a proper split worthwhile. Otherwise, it would just be a number that someone can ignore without thinking about it. I'm not saying a superstar boxer late in his career should have to be worrying about finances, but understanding that this number is going somewhere can help players take that negotiation seriously. And in choosing who we're going to fight, players should have the ability to build hype for fights in a variety of ways. A media and social media presence should be important for the fighter's popularity and for the fight that they are going to be in. I would like the ability to call out another fighter on social media or during interviews, and even depending on where you are in your career, something like getting into the ring with a fighter you're calling out can be huge. I know the boxing fan hates this concept in real life, but in Undisputed, it would make things more realistic if a fight takes a couple years to make, like we've seen in extreme examples like Errol Spence vs. Terrence Crawford. During this period, both fighters can banter back and forth over various media platforms leading up to the fight being made. Maybe even adding promotion companies advising you not to take a specific fight yet so that you can build it up and you can run the risk of one of you guys losing and hindering the hype, or waiting too long and the fans losing interest. I feel like something like this being drawn out would even make the player excited to fight a specific fight and get the satisfying conclusion to a rivalry. The goal for a career mode, in my opinion, is to draw the player into the game's universe. One way to do that outside of the fights is having the player decide what type of star they want to become. It would be cool if you could even add members of the community on the social media feed to boost our guys up. Having guys like Coach's Corner, Study, King Juice, Concept Reese, Showbiz, Fanatico, Darkside, Jay Shep, and many others commenting on your fighter as they go through their career or on various fights would be a nice thank you to the players that kept the game alive during the dull months of release and content news. I know it's a long shot, but even some form of showbiz podcast being in the game would be fun to hear. The player's media presence, whether it be social media or just interviews, should have an impact on their popularity, which would then impact the fights they can make, which would then impact the money they can make. UFC 4 had a very bare bones approach to this in its career mode, and there are things that could have added more depth to what they already did. For example, allow us to initiate conversations with other fighters, whether it be to reach out to build relationships or to talk trash about an opponent that we want to fight. Create a photo shoot mode where you can have your boxer in their fight gear and take pictures while throwing punches to help build hype for a fight and improve your brand. Heck, why not also allow us to create our own logos like the real boxers do in order to garner attention from media, fans, and haters alike. In the same media area, we should have the option to respond to questions that make us either the hero or villain for a certain fight or for an entire career. Either could be good for your fighter's popularity and help you land bigger deals with promotion companies and bigger fights. It could be a fun situation if you're a fighter that calls out another fighter and all that fighter's fans becomes haters of yours and starts to flood your social media or something to that effect. As a sidebar, can we get voices for our fighters? I understand this is a long shot, and I understand that it requires a lot of voice acting and a lot of line writers so everything doesn't just sound cringy. But it will make the pre-fight press conferences as well as the post-fight interviews, if we're going to get any of these things, feel more complete. I'm typically against the way AI technology is used to change voices, but let's just say there is a lot of different ways that you can add a lot of different voices with a lot less effort nowadays. It can even be as little as 10 voices, but a variety will make these moments feel more enjoyable and more unique. I expect you guys to have the option for every fighter in the game to be in a single career mode. So we'll have things like having to go through both Canelo and Sugar Ray on our way to a world title, like every other boxing game has done. But please, can you guys give us the option to only start with active fighters if you'd like to do that? Something that 2K23 did that I really liked was the eras mode that they added to My League. If something like this can be added to Undisputed's career mode, it will make the replay value immense. Having the option to go back and start your career the same time as guys like Ali, Sugar Ray Robinson, Sugar Ray Leonard, and become one of those classic fighters, and maybe even change some history along the way, would create a new experience for career mode in a combat sports game. Even expanding on that, why not allow us to go back to the early 2000s or early 2010s with the active fighters from those periods of time? Whatever period you pick, the aesthetic as well as the rules should match the era that you chose. It would be cool to go back to the early 2010s and see if you can beat Tyson Fury to the lineal championship, or even start your career in any year of the 2010s, and no matter what year you pick, the record of all the active boxers will match their real life record from that year. This will require a lot of research and a lot of work, but it would be a completely different take on a combat sports career mode. Something Madden 17 started but didn't really do a good job of expanding on was allowing someone to have a single player career mode as well as the ability to take control of a franchise concurrently. It would be nice to start a career with a boxer and also in the same world run a gym with a creative coach. Or maybe even start your career with a boxer and after he retires, start another career with different fighters and allow that boxer that first retired to be their coach and build his coaching skill tree. Allowing us to create entire worlds with different boxing lineages will keep players coming back for more. Personally, I would also like the option to watch big fights happening in my career in an AI versus AI style matchup. Doesn't even have to be my weight class, but just watching a random matchup or a random championship fight can give players something different to do in their created boxing world. Even something as simple as watching the fights on the fight card that you're on will get us interested in the world that we've created. And it will create immersion, which is something that I'm very big on in a career mode. And please, Steel City, please give us the option to move up and down weight classes throughout our career. Maybe even give us the option to use catch weights to challenge fighters that may be popular but are out of our weight classes. This can help us to squeeze the most that we can out of a single career. Imagine using a fighter starting at lightweight and having the goal to go 4 times undisputed. Stuff like this will allow players to sink multiple hours in the boxing world and universe that they have created. But that's it. That's what I would like to see in Undisputed's career mode. I don't expect all of these things to be added, or maybe not even most of them, because I imagine they're probably pretty far along in the process of finishing their career mode. But I just thought I'd throw my hat in the ring and offer suggestions, so just in case they could add something, they would. I was thinking also of possibly making a video of things I'd like to see added to the gameplay or things I'd like to see improved with the gameplay, but I also may never make another video again. The odds of both of these things happening are the same. So, just in case I don't, thank you for watching.